This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and a very warm welcome to this Monday review show with me, Mikey, and I am joined today by none other, our American-based compadre, Michał. How are you, sir?
Hi, I'm pretty good. It could have been worse, so that is why I'm super happy with what transpired, but we will get onto that shortly.
Absolutely. Another great weekend covered by the Daily English Premier League podcast here at GSPN. And today we're going to review all the Premier League games, but we're going to focus in on a few in particular. We're going to start with the first segment about Man United Arsenal, and then we are going to fill the middle section of our sandwich with a Forest and Man City mouth-watering tie, and then goals galore at Bournemouth with Tottenham Hotspurs finishing 2-2. And then we'll finish with a wrap-up of the Premier League table to look at how it has affected the Premier League table with 10 games to play. But I would like to dive in with the game at Old Trafford. Sunday, the last game of football to be played. It was Man United Arsenal. It finished 1-1, and as a Man United fan, we're coming out of this game thinking positively about how the game was. I think for the neutral, the game had everything in it. It was a very interesting game. United took the lead with a Bruno Fernandes free kick. There is a lot of controversy over this free kick and the fact that Anthony Taylor decided to make the wall of Arsenal 11.2 yards, giving them an extra 1.2 yards, which, if you're breaking down football to the finest detail, which we love to do about the Premier League, that is a huge offer for Bruno Fernandes to take advantage. An advantage he took. Beautiful free kick. And for many United fans, I think there's no player deserving of that accolade more than Bruno at the minute. The game continued, and it was a nerve-wracking game, but Arsenal were putting on quite a lot of pressure, I felt, in the second half. And though that pressure paid off with the Declan Rice finish, which it's a beautiful thing, clipped the inside of the post. It couldn't be helped defensively, in my opinion. It was a very good Arsenal goal. But not only was Declan Rice heroic in the sense that he finished, but he also made a huge recovery challenge on Rasmus Højlund in his own box from behind at 1-0, which was a very significant moment, I thought. And just to finish, before I go over to Michał and ask for his view on the game, there was two huge chances late on for both teams. It was Bruno Fernandes who had a chance against Raya, which was saved, and then the rebound was bouncing in and Raya managed to claw it out from off the line. And then when down the other end, Martinelli had a chance from about 3 yards out. All he needed to do was push it in, and he managed to sky it, to our delight, obviously. So the game ended 1-1.
Yeah.
Massive disappointment for Arsenal. Glimmers of hope, I would say, for Man United. And I wanted to just give a little shout out to Heaven, who on his debut had no dribbles past him. And for a young defender against the second in the Premier League, I think that's a huge statement and a great accolade to have to his name. What's your big takeaway from this game?
My big takeaway from the game is that Bruno, he came from Sporting like Cristiano. He goes left, he goes right, make defenses look bad. And he's a Portuguese Magnifico. And to all of the Fulham fans which decided to go on a limb and comparing our great captain to the Rat, I will just give you a quick tutorial on what to do in situations like this after Bruno scored such a great free kick. So, step 1, you stand up. Step 2, You do something like this with your hands, and then you do this movement. It's called standing ovation, guys, because this is one of the best talents that Premier League has ever seen. And of course, I could spark some discussion about that. Perhaps, I don't know, but the fact that Bruno is a player who's carrying the entire club on his back, to be honest, I really already feel for him for his retirement years, because those back pains will be, oh my god, his back will be cracking once, like 5 times every day during his retirement. Okay, but speaking seriously, I really, really enjoyed Man United attack, especially in the second half. Because on the first half we were a little bit, hidden in the back. We did not want to let Arsenal create a lot of chances. But then again, we weren't super creative in offense, and that is basically the story of Man United's life recently. Especially when you look at the stats of Man United, how we rank among other Premier League teams. I mean, for example, we have 233 shots in box before this Arsenal game, mind you. And we were ranked 14th in the entire league. Shots to goals conversion 9.3, which is 17th result in the entire league. Man United, to say that they have problems in offense is like saying nothing, and yet there is one guy who somehow managed to carry it all together. In other honorable mentions, yeah, like you mentioned, beautiful display by Aiden Heaven. The fact that it was his debut, as far as I know, that was like even better, because wow, like with such pressure, with a team which not so long time ago were title contenders, and he just came out and made an amazing substitution. Unfortunately, at the expense of Euro, who needed to be subbed off because of the injury. I hope that this injury will not be long. Diogo Dalot. Well, you know it, Mikey. He's my favorite player, right? Like, he's just, it's amazing. Irony. He did not play as bad as I thought he would, because obviously coming into that game, I actually thought that because of his mistakes and because of overall Man United's austerity, Calafiori would score a hat-trick against us at Old Trafford, which did not really seem so far-fetched at the time, but I'm really happy with this point. And just one quick point before we move on. This result helps Liverpool a lot. And I think we will get to that in later segment where we will be talking about the table.
Yeah, possibly. I think just to touch on the Liverpool aspect, I do feel that the league was won last weekend. And I don't think this has done any help towards changing my opinion on that. But just
Right.
on that matter, I would argue that both of these teams lack a centre forward that's recognised and has the experience of making those runs that you expect from a centre forward, or the hold up play that you might expect from a centre forward. With United, we've talked about this at length, but with regard to Arsenal, would you say that not having a recognised centre forward and not buying a recognised centre forward is their demise this season, why they're not challenging for the title, why it's over with over 30 points still to play for?
I do not think it's only the matter of the centre forward. I really do not think so, because if you remember Arsenal's struggles against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup semi-final, how the Eddie Howe side gave them absolutely zero chance to progress to Wembley to play in that final, which is, by the way, not so far away. And I think it's going to be in less than a week time, by the way. No, like Arsenal's problem is lack of a creativity in some parts of the game during the, like, while they're attacking. That's the issue number one that I, off the top of my head. And yeah, not having a centre forward, yeah, like it could be one of the reasons why Arsenal is already out of the title race. Well, mathematically they still have some chances, but I do not think that they will be able to catch Liverpool, not with so many points of difference to their disadvantage. But I think it's just a part of a bigger problem, and the fact that Mikel Arteta cannot. He either doesn't have enough material, and by material I mean not only centre forwards, but other players around that centre forward who could create something, or it's just the, I don't know, overall shape of attack. Like, I don't know whether you had the same feeling, Mikey, but to me, Arsenal attack seems boring. It's nowhere near what they were presenting last season when they came really close to dethroning Manchester City.
Yeah, possibly. I must admit, when I was watching today, I'm a big fan of midfielders that can play intricate football. And Martin Odegaard today, breaking through the lines and playing really fast one-touch football. I thought he shone today, especially in the first half. But I do agree with you. I think you're probably right in the sense of a lack of, I don't know what it is. I think my point about Arsenal and the centre forward situation is that they're notorious for having like really high caliber historically. Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, Robin van Persie. They've managed to maintain, Ian Wright back in the day, this centre forward and those centre forwards linked to their glory years. And I just wonder whether having a focal point up front that can guarantee you goals has been detrimental to their title. But I guess we will never actually know the real reason. But before we jump into the other very interesting part of the table, second and third, or as it was before the weekend, let's hear from our sponsor here at GSPN.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Absolutely. And the early kickoff on Saturday was probably the headline game of the weekend. It was Nottingham Forest, who are the underdogs who have shone much greater than ever expected against Man City, the form team that have currently dipped and really struggling to maintain any form in the Premier League at the minute. Playing against each other. And as a game, as a spectacle, it had so much written on it. I was on the preview show that went out on Friday. And for this, I tipped Man City to win. As a prediction going forward for the game, I just felt that the form of Forest currently had dipped. But I was proven very, very well and truly wrong. Not only by the result, but by the performance. There were chances for both teams, but I would say Forest had the better of the chances, clear-cut chances, and they made that count with Callum Hudson-Odoi's late strike. And what a great game of football in the sense of it being such a close, definitive game, a 1-0 game. A fantastic defending by Forest, has to be said. It doesn't change that there's a lack of unity with Man City and the way that they're playing at the minute, but it's done a hell of a lot for the Premier League and the standings, which we'll again address in our last segment today. But as a game, Forest can be nothing but delighted with this.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. And actually, I'm looking at the key facts, like the key conclusions from this game, and one of those will help me make my point, because City have failed to score in 4 Premier League matches this season. Only in 2016-17 season have they done so more often under Guardiola. So that sounds like a crisis. And what was the sign of that crisis in that game? Out of 14 shots with expected goals 0.86, only, if I see correctly, only 3 were on target. Only 3. And we're not talking about the 100% situations, like how could they have possibly missed that? We're talking about the overwhelming majority of attempts being from outside the box, with Nottingham Forest being super organized defensively. So that's one point to take out of that game. That frustrations in Man City offense continues. And as far as Nottingham Forest go, they desperately needed something after those little stumbles. And to be honest, I'm happy for him. And Hudson Odoi with the goal. Like what else can you actually want? Like I think like one thing that I could, as we say, like a little rock that I could throw into the garden of Nottingham Forest would be Chris Wood's discreet performance. For some reason, his form has dipped slightly, and it remains to be seen whether he will go back up to the same levels which he presented somewhere like at the end of the year, like in that first half of the season when he was just scoring like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to probably mention the goal. The goal was a counter attack with, I don't know, a move that I Morgan Gibbs White played a phenomenal pass to Hudson Odoi. And from that point of receiving the ball to running directly towards goal, I felt that when he took his strike, he was in a position on the right hand side of the box to not create much of a problem from a goalkeeping point of view. And for someone who I really don't like Ederson, I can't stand him, but I have respect for the fact that he is a good goalkeeper, but I don't think he's as good as what people seem to rate him. And it kind of proved my point, because being beaten at your front post with an effort that wasn't clinical in any way, I think he will be coming away disappointed with that, especially dropping them into fifth in the table. And it's such a costly mistake. I mean, they did have a chance at the end. Kovacic on the half volley just glistened past the post. It would have been a beautiful strike had it gone in, but it weren't to be.
It wasn't to be, and because of that, now what we can see in the table is that, actually, instead of trying to analyze what the implications of this game for Man City are, I can just refer to Pep Guardiola himself. He just said that now they have 10 finals, and the next one we start. So 10 finals ahead in Pep Guardiola's mind. That tells you all you need to know about how dire the situation is at Etihad. And as far as Nottingham Forest go, I would really love to see them finish in top four. That would be such a great story. It would be I know this comparison to Leicester City from season 2015-16. It's been overused slightly by so many experts and so many commentators. So I will not use that. Instead, I will just say that such stories like Nottingham Forest, with such overachievers finishing in those European places, as I can call it, that would be such a great deal for Nuno Espirito Santo after so many ups and downs for this manager. I really kind of root for him. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish them all the very best. I think they've done phenomenally well this year, and they deserve every accolade. I think Saturday's result was the cherry on top of the cake. As the season goes, if they make Champions League football or European football, it's a massive success for them. I just hope they continue to do that. And it's so congested. We'll talk about that very shortly. How that could potentially play out for them. But it's really important to move on to a team that struggled in Europe, in Tottenham Hotspurs against AZ Alkmaar during the week with a really, really poor display, losing 1-0. And this was their opportunity to turn it round. It didn't start that way. Bournemouth turned up, and the first goal came from a really bad pass from Pedro Porro, and it was just carried. I can't remember who carried it. Covered something. Can't remember his name. His name's gone out of my head. The fullback, and he played a De Bruyne-esque cross for Tavernier to come in at the back post and just slot it home. It was a beautiful goal.
I think you did you mention like the guy assisting the goal for Bournemouth, right?
Yeah, the Hungarian guy plays fullback.
Hungarian. Kekes.
Say it again.
It must be Keki.
Yeah. That's him.
Yeah. that must be him.
So anyway, the game carried on, and Evan Nielsen on his game returned back to the Premier League, slotted home a very classy finish. I do have a question about the Sarr goal. Tottenham responded 2 minutes later, and Pepe Sarr was the goal scorer from long range, and it was floated over the goalkeeper. And he was on the right-hand side outside the box. I thought it was a cross. I'm not sure he was going for goal, but it landed in the net. And, well, he didn't really celebrate either. He didn't react.
Yeah. To be honest, and the reason I'm laughing at that is because that kind of in Polish league, in Polish Ekstraklasa, we call it we'd call it crosso shot. So a cross which actually got transitioned in mid-air to a shot, and that is basically the classic, and it's a standard in Polish league. But to see it in English Premier League, I was humbled. I was absolutely humbled, and I was so happy that the crosso shots actually have arrived in Premier League. But look, okay. Jokes aside, that goal was unexpected, and just to go back to how Bournemouth scored both of those goals, the way how I saw it, it was like Tottenham. All it took was like one final pass, not quite there. One missed a key pass, one missed move, and that was enough for Bournemouth to unleash their like what they are known for, like the let's just say the flag barriers, like carriers of the modern football style. So basically, blitzed, counterattack, and then again, Evangelisson, Tavernier, those were basically 101 counterattack goals. And it all happened because of mistakes of Ange Postecoglou's side. So, and to be honest, I do not think we should knock on Tottenham too much after this game, because they did what they were supposed to do. They were trailing 2-0. A lot of people will probably write them off at that moment in time, because come on, we're talking about flying Bournemouth. Yeah, sure, they did have some stumbles along the way, but still, we're talking about a team which has some perspectives for Europe. I would actually tell off if I were Andoni Iraola. I would tell off my side for just blowing it away, like for bottling it completely. And I do not understand why, especially after that penalty, which was conceded by Bournemouth. It was such a stupid way to concede a penalty, really. Like in such a critical moment of the game. And then the Son with a Panenka style, just adding more insult to the injury. That game was supposed to be won by Bournemouth, and the fact that they didn't win it, they only got themselves to blame.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. So I agree that Tottenham lacked. They gave a lot of possession away. That's completely true. But I do think that was down to the intensity that Bournemouth play in the midfield to create situations where Tottenham are feeling rushed by the opposition. That being said, I completely agree. I think Bournemouth can only blame one person, and that's Kepa, in regard to conceding the second goal. Son Heung-min coming into the game at half-time created a big difference for Arsenal. I keep saying Arsenal. I'm getting messages from my friends telling me about the Arsenal game. What score was that again, Arsenal fans? Anyway.
Wow, okay.
But Son Heung-min made a big impact. He had a chance before the goal where he cut inside and he clipped the outside of the post. And I thought his penalty was so classy to just let it trickle down the middle. Yeah, very, very impressive. And as you say, let's not give Tottenham too much grief because bringing it back at home, and that will send them into the second leg against AZ Alkmaar this week with a little bit of positivity, I should hope, for them to proceed. So before we continue, let's tell you guys a little bit more about Zencastr and why it is the platform we choose here at GSPN.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out as the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone, AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the description to learn more. about Zencastr.
Absolutely, make sure that you do. And with regard to the Premier League table now, we're going to have a look at some of the games that we've not discussed so far and look at how it's affected some of the teams that we have discussed. We had top against bottom. I called out a 7-10-0. It could be appalling. I'm pretty sure most football fans expected that. Southampton went 1-0 up at Anfield, which was probably the biggest shock of the weekend.
Yeah.
But Liverpool, being the team that they are this season, came back and absolutely dominated after they equalised and quite convincingly won. I don't think the part of the table we need to concern ourselves with is the top two. I would like to get your opinion on the bottom of the table, though. Everton played Wolves, and that finished 1-1. Ipswich and Leicester both lost against teams that you would expect them to lose against. I'm just looking now. It's 6 points between those teams and Wolves for the drop. And we've got 30 points up for grabs. Do you think it's possible for either Ipswich or Leicester to escape the drop?
That is a good question. Because Leicester and Ipswich. Let's focus on the opponents of Leicester, right? So in the very next fixture, they will be playing against Man United at home. Then it's Man City away, Newcastle, Brighton, Liverpool at home. Then Wolverhampton, Southampton, Nottingham Forest, Ipswich, and they finish with Bournemouth away. That's how they finish the season. So I think that for Leicester, their most crucial games that will basically be do or die as far as Premier League is concerned will be games against Southampton and Ipswich. Because if you manage to get a result against your fellow relegation contenders, then your chances will increase. You were talking about like a 6-point difference, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
It's 7 points with the goal difference. The goal difference is dramatically different.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. But then again, somebody could have the worst goal difference in the world, but then again, it will not matter as long as the somebody will have more points than the other team. So with that being said, with Ipswich, with Leicester, if they score good results against Southampton, good results against Ipswich, then all of a sudden they will get closer to Wolves. They will get closer to Wolves, basically, because we're not talking about West Ham, because that's like they're even further down there. So Leicester and Ipswich. Okay, let's focus on Leicester. Leicester, they have a chance. They still have a chance to escape the relegation. Now let's look at Ipswich Town. Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, very difficult games. Wolverhampton, very important game for Ipswich. Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Everton, Brentford, Leicester, and they finish at home with West Ham. That's how they finish the season. So I think the path towards staying up in the Premier League for Ipswich is way more difficult than the Leicester one, because they're going to have to try not to drop too many points against the big ones. So Arsenal, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Newcastle. And then they're just going to have to deliver against Leicester. So I have a feeling that Leicester has got a far more room for error than Ipswich. That's how I feel, just looking at how those upcoming fixtures look. And then we have Southampton, which I think they've already...
We don't need to cover them.
Exactly. And then we can also take the, just out of curiosity, we can look at Wolverhampton. They're going to have Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich, Tottenham, Man United, Leicester, Man City, Brighton, Crystal Palace, and they finish with Brentford. Wolves, they are in a far better position. They're starting it off with some not so difficult fixtures. I mean, Ipswich by far, they have a far worse future fixtures than Wolves. But then again, anything can happen. You cannot write somebody off, and you just cannot put a W in the column. And Premier League has punished a lot of those guys who decided to, write additional W to their column without actually playing the game. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, they do play Southampton next weekend, so you'd imagine if they were to win that and both Leicester and Ipswich weren't to get any points, the task becomes that little bit more a challenge and possibly out of grasp. But like, as you say, it is the Premier League and we can't just put W's in the column or points where we think they are because it's subject to change. It's really interesting that all three teams have to play each other in that area. So it will be a telling time at the bottom. But at the minute, as it stands, I can't see Ipswich or Leicester doing the job to get out of the relegation zone.
Oh, interesting. Because then again, but what about those direct matches, like you said? Because those can actually reduce that difference that they have to the safe zone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, as you say, you can never write them off. But I would, if I was a betting man, I would bet that Wolves stay up quite comfortably. Looking at the fixtures as you've read out, I think Wolves have the better side of that, and they would probably. I would expect Wolves to get results against Leicester and Ipswich at the minute. So yeah, and they're playing teams like Tottenham who are so unpredictable, and Man United. I don't know. It's interesting, but the other part of the table that is really interesting and actually quite dramatic is the European spots, and that goes from third all the way down to arguably ninth. There's a 7-point difference between third and ninth, which it's phenomenal, really. Aston Villa are the only team within there that have got a game in hand, and they're on 45 points. You've got Newcastle, who have got 2 games on Villa, 1 game on the rest, which would put them, if they won, they would go joint. Oh wow, they would go joint 5th with Man City currently. Probably go into 6th because of their goal difference. It changes so much. City obviously have slipped out of the top 4 now after the result against Forest and Chelsea winning. As you mentioned before, Brighton won, which has pulled them right up. They were much lower down in the table. It's completely up for grabs, and at the minute, all those teams in there are getting results, bar maybe Man City, but sporadically are getting results. So, what if I had to push you to an answer as we're coming to the end of the podcast? What would your prediction be for top 4 Champions League and who's getting the last European spot? Take away the cup competitions. I'm not bothered about those.
Right. Okay. So just purely at purely Premier League table.
Yeah.
So okay. So Liverpool, Arsenal, obviously, and then we've got. I think Nottingham Forest. They will not maintain that third position because when push comes to shove, Chelsea, Man City, Brighton, and Aston Villa, they will try their hardest to clinch their better positions in the table because as well as Aston Villa does in Champions League, there will come a time when they will get eliminated because the quality of football in that knockout round currently in the Champions League is far too much for them to handle. So at some point, Aston Villa will be eliminated from Champions League. And it will be from that moment on where Aston Villa will focus almost all of their resources on Premier League. So because of that push, I think that Forest will not finish third. I still feel optimistic about them, so I think that they will finish 4th. And I will also predict the Aston Villa to move 3rd. We'll see whether I will be right. So Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Forest, and then we're left with that one final spot. You know what? Looking at the season that Man City's had so far, they do not deserve any European football. I'm sorry. Brighton is a far more deserving side at the moment of Europe than Man City, and that's just facts. As far as Bournemouth and Newcastle, it's gonna be tight, so it's just gonna be a toss between Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Brighton and Man City. And I think when it's all said and done, I think Brighton will come on top for that fight for the 5th place.
Oh, wow. You heard it here first. I'd like us to write this down or note it or put it on the social media or something to recognise what you've just said there. My gosh, there are some bold claims coming from the USA today, people.
Is it because of the knowledge or is it because of the lack of knowledge? We'll leave you wondering.
The Premier League football is so unpredictable. I can actually forecast Forest getting 5th, Chelsea getting 3rd, I reckon City will get fourth. So I think as it remains, but just shuffling those teams around a little bit. But as you know, we will find out very, very soon as these games progress and as the life in the Premier League continues to throw us curveballs that we just weren't expecting. Will Michał be right or will Michael be right? Who knows? But we will find out as we follow the season together. It's been an absolute pleasure to be back on with you, Michał. I hope that you have a fantastic week. From everyone here at the Daily GSPN Premier League podcast, it is farewell from us.
Thank you.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.